Well, I had a feeling that was I had a feeling I did something funky there. I did start at 8, guys, and this is the second time I've done this, so my bad on this, guys. I forgot to hit the go live button on YouTube, and I hit go live on my OBS. So didn't get far though. All I did was clear off the parts on my table and got the motherboard out of the box. So apologies for that, guys. I was blabbering on until you guys made some comments. So let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat. Audio's coming through good, because I definitely screwed that up. So sorry about that, guys. I'm still new to live streaming, still trying to get figure out the quirks here, and clearly screwed that one up. So apologies for that. Anyway, so like I said, we are just getting to the parts, and I didn't really discuss anything other than just saying hey, hello, and discussing what our first part is, which I'll go ahead and talk about here. Which we got is we just took out of the box. This is our motherboard that we're dealing with here. We're doing a $500 build tonight, guys. This should be a pretty sweet little entry-level gaming, mid-tier gaming machine for 1080p style gaming that should be able to play just about anything that you could throw at it. Some of the harder to play titles, yeah, could struggle a little bit with, but with some toned down settings, as you guys even saw with my Dell Optiplex build that I did a few videos back, even that being so low powered, was still able to handle things like Flight Sim and Cyberpunk. So this thing's going to blow that one away. So, and as just a housekeeping item, I'm definitely going to try to keep up with the chat as much as I possibly can with you guys, just to have some good interaction and do a lot of the community interaction with you guys. I see a lot of it coming in now, and if I happen to miss, sorry, I'm just building and taking a glance over at my monitor as I'm doing it. Super chats are also a good way to help support the channel, as well as if you got a dire burning question you want to ask me, then that'll flag it to the top and I'll be able to see it. So not something that you have to do though. As I said, I'm going to try to keep up with you guys as much as I possibly can. So let's get into it. Again, sorry for the snafu at the start there. It's only the second time I've done that, but I'm getting better at these things. So anyway, so let's take a look at this motherboard real quick. This is a Gigabyte DS3H board from Gigabyte, and what we got here is kind of a not so stripped down board, but a basic board. And the things I like about these boards are there's 4 DIMM slots and a couple other nicer features that are kind of things that you wouldn't find on stripped down boards. So big thing being here, and apology if you guys hear some kids playing in the background, I'm kind of wrangling them as well as doing this at the same time. My studio is not closed in, but anyway, so one thing I really like about this board here is we happen to get a Wi-Fi edition board. So very good stuff here. That means we can have multiple options of connecting it. That's a good resale factor too, because this will be a reselled system at some point, and a lot of people ask, does it have Wi-Fi? So I try to find boards that have the built-in Wi-Fi. However, though, if you guys happen to see the parts hunt video where we did that, this isn't the same board that we found actually in the parts hunt video. That was about 5 to 6 weeks ago. We put together at least the parts list for this. That's the thing about some of these niche parts being out there is, say if you're on eBay or you're going through Amazon Warehouse, where we did get this board. More on that in just a sec. Sometimes they buy up really quick. So I didn't buy it the day of that video, and I should be doing that. Mainly because so I can go part for part with you guys. But I happened to lose the availability to buy that board. I think it was on Amazon Warehouse. It was just a one-time only sale, so it was gone quick. It was a $50 board, but very similar to this. Micro ATX. I think it had built-in Wi-Fi, all kind of the same features. So I ended up finding a Gigabyte board that basically does the same exact thing and allows me to continue to build a system for the same price. So we ended up picking this up on Amazon Warehouse for $55. And I can't stress it enough. Like, Amazon Warehouse is so great for that specifically. This board is basically in like new condition. There isn't, I don't think it was ever used. It looks pristine, and I got it for $55. So that's a great thing about Amazon Warehouse is you can usually pick up something like this, and this isn't the first time I've done it. I've done it many times, where you can get something of like new condition for a very extreme discounted price. And being Amazon, if you have Amazon available to you, if you're living in the United States, you know, in many locations in the United States specifically, not sure how it works overseas as much. Sometimes you get the stuff shipped to your house within days, even less than that. I think I got this like 48 hours after I bought it. So anyway, enough talking about the motherboard. I think we've discussed enough on that, but basically the key point here is we found something of equal value and equal feature, so we didn't really, really isn't much changed in that regard. So before we jump into the next part, I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat, see if we got anybody with any questions. I see some folks that I normally see here in the video, in my videos and comments. So hello to everybody that is a returning subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, obviously, definitely get subscribed if you enjoy this content. I am trying to do a live stream at least once a month. Like I said, I kind of fell off a little bit with that because being the summer, I have 2 kids, family, we went on some vacations, and I also have a full-time job. This is not my full-time job. I wish it was. That'd be great, but it's not. So I got things that I got to deal with that on most occasions. So just take a quick look at the chat. We ain't got any questions or anything like that. Jeff, I did see your comment about earlier you're building a system for a friend. That's pretty cool, man. I'm sure he'll be grateful and should be a decent little budget gamer. I was reading the specs. I was commenting on that before I actually hit the go live button. So that looks pretty awesome. You're a nice friend for giving that as a gift. How's it going, Joker? How's it going, Jeff? Jonathan, Talks Hardware. Nice to see you, man. Oh, one thing, I just saw your comment there, Jonathan, about a $450 build. So the funny thing is about this build, now with the prices falling the way they have been, if you guys have been paying attention, like GPU prices are almost pre-COVID, pre-craziness from 2 years ago. And this build now can really be put together for about $450 as opposed to $500. So I'm probably going to take a little bit of a loss on this build, but you know, it's for content for you guys, so that's what we're doing. All right, so let's get into the processor. Now the processor, this is really cool. I just got it in a Ryzen 3600 box just for, you know, unboxing sake. But if you guys notice in the video, the previous video where we parts hunted, and definitely take a look at that because I really go into a whole lot of depth on why I'm choosing what part and how I'm getting those parts and through many different sources. I had my first Jawa purchasing experience, and I had to say it was fantastic. So it's a really cool site if you guys aren't familiar with Jawa. It's kind of like an eBay almost, but it's very kind of niche to PC building, flipping. That does make part availability somewhat slim a little bit. That's one thing I did notice, but you can snipe some pretty sweet deals, which we happen to do here. And what we got here is a Ryzen 5 1600 AF. So a bit of a dated CPU, but honestly, these things still really kick butt in terms of just getting a basic budget build together and really just having something awesome. And the good thing about this is 1600 AF, if you guys aren't familiar, is basically a re-release of the 1600 from back in, let me see if I can get close here on the camera. What we're looking for is the AF, it's kind of hard, I'm getting glares, but basically what this was a 1600 re-release in, I'm trying to think when that happened. That was like 2019, mid 2019. Basically, the architecture is a 2600. So I think it's actually a smaller nanometer. Let me know if I'm correct in that in the chat. But it performs like a 2600, and I got this off Jawa from a seller for 85 bucks. Now that technically was the retail value, I should say, of these chips when they first came out. But if you guys were like me and trying to get one of these chips when they were red hot as the new hot, you know, budget chip to buy back in like 2019, early 2020, you couldn't find it for 85 bucks. You couldn't find them at all, really. I never was able to actually buy one that was in stock. So these have kind of, I've seen return to the used market sectors where people are doing upgrades, and so, you know, you can snipe a really good 6-core 12-thread CPU that clocks up to, I think, right around 4 gigahertz on its turbo. and have a very, very capable CPU that'll last you a while. And like I said, if you're doing just budget style gaming where you're not doing anything crazy, this thing has got plenty of years left in it. So let's get this guy installed. Match up them triangles. I had it right the first time. There we go. So get that guy in the slot. Done. All right, so we've got our Ryzen CPU installed. Take a quick peek at the chat, see how you guys are coming along. All right, and take a little sip of my coffee. SD1 Ranger, you know what? Hey, you bring up a really good point. You've built up some rigs and are having a hard time to sell them. I'm a little bit worried about this one as well. That's actually something that a couple of my other creator friends, if they join in, if they aren't here already, Pinky Tech and John the Net Guy have also experienced. So, by the way, if you guys aren't subscribed to their channels, then you better go get subscribed, because those are two awesome content creators. And the three of us are kind of a think tank on YouTube. We try to ping pong ideas off each other, but we've all been saying the same things. I've had that $400 build that I did a while back. It's still in my studio right now. I'm actually going to do a video to try to do some things. I polled you guys a little while back on my community tab about what can I do to make this thing sell. So I had a lot of people, give out ideas. I got some ideas, and that'll probably be a video that's up and coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks, where I'm going to add some things. I'm trying not to break the bank on it, because I'm already at a point where I'll take a loss. I'm just trying to recoup the money that I already invested into just building the thing. But I've got nothing but scammer bites, actually. So careful with that too if you're trying to resell stuff online, specifically through local used markets, because the scammers are always out there, and it seems like right now they're out there more than actual buyers, which really stinks for us. But I've totally ran into the same exact thing, man. It's just kind of wild. Jonathan Talks Hardware says he's become friends with Pinky Tech and the Net Guy. Two cool dudes. I think John, the Net Guy, just did a really awesome stream where he built, last week, he built a sweet flight sim PC. Did a whole stream on that. I was late to it. Unfortunately, I wanted to see all that because that looked like a really sweet build. So if you guys haven't checked that out, go check out his VOD on that, because it's really sweet. All right, so in here, we've got just the basic AMD Wraith Stealth cooler. It'll do plenty fine for this 1600 AF. The 1600 AF does not pull a lot of heat, and especially with a motherboard like this, there isn't any kind of crazy power profiles that is really going to pull in a lot more. Now, you can definitely overclock this, which I always suggest, because I like to overclock. It's free performance for your money, especially when you're building a budget system. Like, if you can get another 10 frames per second for literally nothing, I'd say it's always worth it. But do that at your discretion. Now, that might be, though, where the stealth here could show its limitations, because this cooler here, and I'll get on the closer cam here, it's pretty basic, although I've always liked these stealth coolers. Being basic as it is, the fan, I think, has got a pretty good little aesthetic on it. But the thing here is, as you can see, the metal material is all just aluminum. There's no copper, so this is just basically an aluminum slug with some aluminum fins, and it's not very dense. That's actually, not much to write home about, but does the job plenty fine for budget builds. And me being a budget builder and having so many of these on hand, which this one was on hand, but you can find these for about 10-15 bucks, maybe less than that. Depends on where you find it from. Heck, you might even, if you're buying a CPU from someone and if they still got one, maybe they can just say, hey, take it for free. But these are pretty cheap, and they're very widely abundant. You can get them brand new, even on Amazon, for about what I said I got it for. All right, I realized I misplaced my screwdriver. I need to go grab that real quick. Just walking off the camera for a sec. All right, here it is. So next thing we're going to be doing is getting that cooler installed on the CPU. So get that nice close and center for you guys. All right. So what we're going to do here is, if you guys are not familiar with AMD motherboards, is they always have these retention brackets attached to the motherboard. A retention brackets, a mounting bracket, whatever you want. The plastic piece that holds different coolers. This being the stock cooler actually does not work with that, so we actually have to take that off, but it's just as simple as this. Now save these 100% because aftermarket coolers tend to use these a lot. So don't lose your little mounting brackets here that attach to the top of the board. And actually, I'll show you a little trick, pro tip here, so you don't lose your screws either. Usually what I do is after I take these off, there we go, sorry. What I'll do is I'll put the screws back in and then like put a piece of tape over that so the screws don't fly out, and then you aren't trying to hunt down screws plus brackets and end up losing it, because I mean, it'd be pretty easy to lose it. Alright, so we'll get those off and out of the way. Okay, so then what we're left with is the back plate that we're going to mount the cooler to, and I'll show you what that looks like. You don't necessarily have to pull this out, but what we got here is just the stock AMD backplate that goes on the back of the motherboard that we're going to screw the AMD Wraith Stealth cooler into. So I get that back underneath. Let's see, get that lined back up. There we go. All right. So first thing we're going to do before we put down the cooler is, don't make this mistake. Get you some thermal paste. Now, if you got one of these brand new, it actually comes with thermal paste pre-applied here. This is a used one I've had in studio, so I've since cleaned it off and used it for some other case of some sort. I don't know what I use it for. I got tons of these. I got about 8, I think, just in a drawer. So thermal paste. You know, you could have a debate on thermal paste, but I actually like this stuff from, it's a Chinese branded thermal paste. If you guys aren't familiar with Tech Yes City, he highly recommends this stuff, and it's a giant tube, and I got these for like $2 a tube. It took a while to get them, but I bought like 10 of them, so I have tons of thermal paste. And unless you're going crazy, yes, some thermal pastes are better for thermal conductivity. This paste does get a little on the greasy side. That is one thing I've noticed, but it's still plenty fine. But this is a budget build. I'm not super concerned with exactly having the best thermal paste possible. All right, so we're just going to line up the screw holes here and just hammer this thing down. Now, if this is something you guys aren't familiar with doing, the typical method here is to do so in a diagonal pattern, so that way you're applying as equal pressure, at least during the start of mounting this down. So I usually just do a diagonal pattern, spin it a few times, and then really go ham on it. Oop, and don't go ham on your motherboard. That wouldn't be good to pop a capacitor or something. All right, and these just screw down until they stop. It's as simple as that. Nearly there. Reaper Operator says, how often should you redo thermal paste? I've generally gone by once a year, but I don't know if that is too soon. Honestly, man, I guess it kind of slightly depends on what kind of paste you're using. Just keep an eye on your temperatures. Like if you feel like there's rising temperatures, typically I'll replace GPU thermal paste probably sooner than I actually do CPU. But I mean, it's not a bad thing to do it once a year. But is it super necessary? I would say not really. Most of these thermal pastes are designed to last quite a long time. Now, say if you bought like a old Dell Optiplex from eBay, and you don't know any history about it, it'd be a good idea to probably just redo the thermal paste, because chances are that cooler's probably never been taken off, especially if it's like an office style machine. But a lot of these thermal pastes, if you aren't buying the cheap stuff like this, and although I do say this stuff is still pretty darn good, they're designed to last quite a long time. So I think, so give you an idea, before I did my personal rig redo, which was a live stream, my first one, I had my cooler probably mounted for 3 years, maybe 4, And also I had a pretty extreme overclock. It was an 8700K. I had all core, always on 5 gigahertz, and it was pumping a lot of heat, and I'd never had an issue. And that thermal paste I used, it was Thermal Grizzly, so that's very good stuff. So I'd say if you're looking to not have to pull your CPU off every year to redo your thermal paste, just buy some, spend a few more dollars and get some better thermal paste, and you shouldn't have to worry about it. But always keep an eye on your temperatures too. That could be a good indicator if you need to redo it. All right, so we've got the cooler attached, and I said, like I said, spin the screws till they stop, and you're about done. We just need to attach the PWM cable for the fan. What I'll do here is try to make it a little bit pretty. Let's see if I can kind of tuck it in there a little. If you really put some time and effort into it, you can tuck these cables in here pretty nicely, but that's fine. I realized I mounted the cooler with the AMD logo facing towards the RAM, which actually isn't going to be a problem for us, and it wouldn't really be a problem actually in general, but sometimes people will spin it around. You can have the AMD logo on the other side, and actually sometimes what you can do, if you didn't know this, you can actually unscrew the fan assembly from the aluminum and spin the whole fan so that the AMD logo is reading up top. I don't know why that they just aren't that way to begin with, but you can do that. I noticed that's something that Zach's Tech Turf does often, where he'll spin it where it's facing upward. I've done that a few times, and then I've kind of just gotten lazy to the point where this is a budget system. I'll let whoever wants it to do it if they want to do it that way. But it is something, if you didn't know, you can do. Take a look at some comments here real quick before we get into the next step. Switch over my screen here so you guys see me. So, what we got here? Jeff says MX4 lasts 8 years. Yeah, I mean, something like MX4, Thermal Grizzly, that kind of thermal paste, it's made to last for years and years and years. You shouldn't, unless you're tinkering and changing coolers out, then you really shouldn't have to replace your thermal paste hardly ever. The only stuff I'd feel slightly sketchy about is maybe those, thermal pastes that come in like those little plastic, like they're not even tubes, like little one-time use things. That stuff may not last long, that you get from like a cheap AIO or something like that. But most of the times, a good quality thermal paste is going to last you a while. All right, looks like you guys are just chatting about kind of something relative to that. So I'm going to move on to the next step, paranormal gaming. Hey man, how's it going, man? I've seen you in my streams before. Thanks for coming back and hanging out with us. All right, so let's get to the next step here and get some RAM installed. Now this RAM, as you can see, I have out of the packaging because this is actually, if you guys watched the $500 parts hunt video, this is the same RAM I put in the $400 build video. And me just trying to operate a YouTube channel on a budget because, like I said, this isn't my full-time job. I just pulled this out of the $400 build, but it's the same exact kit, and what we have is a Silicon Power, a 16 gig kit, 3200 megahertz, cast latency 16. 3200 megahertz is plenty good for a 1600 AF. I'm not sure if it would be stable for with 3600 megahertz. It might be. That might be more tailored towards the 3000 and 5000 series processors, where that would be a safer approach. But again, a budget build. But we got this kit for, I think it was right at $50. 16 gigs, pretty awesome. And the comment I made in that video too is RAM and storage have never been cheaper than they have been in recent years. So you got some really good options. These things really aren't fantastic to look at. They're not RGB, but they're not an eyesore. They're not green PCB, so they look just fine. And it kind of matches the aesthetic of the board as it is already. So let's get these guys going. We're going to populate DIMM slot 2, because that is the primary slot. And as you guys can see with this very slim RAM, even if I was populating all 4 slots, gets in behind this cooler, no problem. I might have an issue if I have some like big chunky, memory that is going to impede on this AMD logo. Then I'd have to swap the cooler around. So I'm glad I don't have to do that, because then I would have a mess with my thermal paste. All right, and then get the second one in. So we're just going to line up the notches and even pressure. We're listening for those two distinctive clicks, which we hear. So what do we got here? We've got B450 gigabyte DS3H Wi-Fi board with a Ryzen 1600 AF, cooler installed, RAM installed. Now let's do the last part that I usually do on the motherboard before I get it prepped and ready to go in the case, and that'll be our storage. Get that close for you guys. So what we got here is another part that I've been recommending lately for budget builds, and that is a Team Groot SSD. This is a cheap kind of budget level SSD. Again, when you're spending the kind of money that you would spend on a $400 to $500 build, there is no sense really in getting even a Gen 4 drive wouldn't work in this type of motherboard. That being a limitation is it's only Gen 3, but also, you know, this is a $50 drive that we can get 512 gigs of NVMe grade storage, meaning the speeds of NVMe. So it's all relative. It's a $500 build. I'm not going to recommend going out and buying a Samsung 980 Pro that costs near $200 for the same type of storage capacity. Yes, it would be a longer lasting drive. Yes, it would be faster. It's better overall completely, but that is like literally a large chunk of the budget. So why would we do that? So it's all relative, and we'll get into more relative level talking when it comes to the parts as we go along, because again, you got to think with relevancy when you're building a budget PC. Not to say that you take shortcuts that will be harmful to your build, but you just do things that are appropriate. All right, so we're going to cut it to the close camera here, because what we got to do, as I mentioned earlier, is my M.2 screw is actually still installed on the board. So I'm just going to pull that off real quick so I can get my drive in. So as simple as this, guys. Line up the notch just like RAM. There's only one little notch here, and we'll just line it up with the notch that's on the motherboard. It's all lined up. Give it a push in towards the interior of the motherboard, and with a screwdriver kit kind of like this iFixit kit, we're gonna push down and just zip that screw right back on in. Now this obviously is, I guess you could say, a bit of an eyesore. We don't have a heat sink that is placed over the M.2 drive. So, I mean, if that's something you like, you can actually go out and buy those. I think for only, I don't know, $10. I actually haven't looked up what they cost, but I know that's something that people like to do when they don't like the aesthetic of the branded SSD sticker. Don't ever remove the sticker, by the way, because it is a metal material that does actually help cool the drive. So, I mean, it's not really necessary. It's more of an aesthetic thing. This being a budget PC, and obviously when you're doing budget PCs, and if you're building budget PCs to try to make some money, you got to put your money where it's best seen fit. And as we were talking about earlier, you know, you go too crazy on aesthetics, then you're going to lose your budget completely, and you're not going to make any money. So my aim is really not necessarily making money first on these builds. Really, it's more or less just, if it's for you guys to have an example of, hey, if you got $450 to $500, this is what you can build. And if you want it to become more aesthetically pleasing, well, there's things you can do later on down the road. All right, so we've got the motherboard completely, basically assembled as far as all the things that we're going to put on the motherboard. So the next step would be getting it into a case. So I'm going to just kind of shove this to the side and bring our case in. But before we do that, just check up with you guys in the chat. Reaper Operator says, when do you think you'll start doing DDR5 builds? When DDR5, I can build a DDR. I mean, that could be something to look into now with prices starting to come down to normal levels. DDR5 is kind of niche still in a way. It's going to be obviously mainstream here soon, but the last times I've looked into DDR5, obviously there's not a single Ryzen CPU that supports it. Not until the 7000 series comes out later this year. But the only thing being Intel. Not to say that that's anything bad with Intel, but in order to support DDR5, obviously you got to pay a little more money just to get it. But obviously also you have to get a chip that supports it, which is more expensive. So I guess if I were to build a DDR5 budget build, I'd probably be spending around $600 to $700, which could be, I don't know, maybe the next build I do. So that's a good question, and I'll look into it, and maybe it's something that we can take out, because honestly, I'm kind of tired of building Ryzen budget systems. But the thing is, they've just been so good for building budget systems because you can get these parts available and cheap, better than Intel. Now there are some niche areas in Intel where you can get like an i3 chip, the latest i3 chip, for like $100. And that's one thing I kind of wanted to do and look at when I was doing this $500 build. We're really close. So, and I want to go back to doing something other than just Ryzen. So B450s are just so good right now because you can get them dirt cheap. Like even the cheapest boards that support Intel, they're really stripped down and they don't have any of the features that you have on this board, and they typically cost more. So that's the problem I have with that, is the Intel boards cost a little bit more and they don't have as many features, and they get the same features equal apple to apples. Like you're going to spend $100 on a motherboard. SD1 Ranger. Current build for me is a 11400F and 3070 Ti. That sounds like a beast. I bet that sucker plays anything you want it to play. Alright, so I think I'm going to bring the case in next, guys, and get this cable out of my way. And this case is actually, I'm really excited. I'll show you, because I'll show you the things that I'm excited about this case. Coming in off stream here, off camera. Alright, here we go. It's a big case. Wasn't actually expecting it to be this big, but if you guys watched the $600 parts hunt video, I did not end up on that case that I had pointed out. And actually, it was a case that I also pointed out that Pinky Tech used and built a pretty nice looking system. It was a Antec case. Smaller case, would have been more fitting for this build. But it, when I went to buy it, the price went up like $25. So it was this, and I think it was just an availability spike. So it was originally on Amazon. I think now it's come back down. I checked before stream. It's back to like its original MSRP that I found in the video. When I went to buy it, I don't know, it was just a few days later, maybe even a week later, it jumped up to like $85, $90. And that case, I was hoping to pair maybe some like cheap LED fans with to kind of give it some better resale factor. And I just was still at that time, you know, and still even now, parts availability is still not 100% a huge thing that we can rely on. So I was like, man, I need a case. So I went back to PC Part Picker and just started looking for cases in the $40 to $60 range. And I came across this case. This is a case by Rosewell, which I haven't used. I think only maybe one time I've used one of their cases. But it was $50. No, I'm sorry, $60. But it comes with 4 RGB fans, and a built-in RGB controller. There's buttons on the top. That's where your power, LED reset, and all that stuff is. So I'm going to open up and tempered glass. So a lot of wins for the resale factor, right? Hopefully I can sell this one. Maybe the reason I wasn't selling the $400 one because it wasn't so pretty to look at. I don't know. But yeah, tempered glass, and yeah, we got protective film on each side, it looks like. Nice, so I don't get it all dirty with my fingerprints. I'm going to get this out of the way, though, for now, because that will be the last thing we do. But you guys might see this case looks a little interesting. So 3 fans all the way across the basement, and these are good fans. It feels like they got rubber isolators on them. I don't know how good they are really right now, but they are 1200 RPM LED, I think RGB, ARGB fans, so they can be controlled. I'm just pulling off the back panel real quick. Captive thumb screws on both panels, very nice. Has a good steel feel to it. Doesn't feel cheap at all. And check out this back panel too. It has a ventilation, although really you can't really. I think it's kind of funny that this is here. It has ventilation, but there's no fans that you would mount on the interior there that actually bring air in. So I don't know. I think it's more of like, oh wait, oh, that does come off. Sweet. I want to look at that with you guys. Okay, so this isn't just for aesthetics. This panel on the inside, I don't know if you guys can see that. I can take the screws off. This is where you would mount like some SSDs. I can take this panel off, and you can mount a 360 millimeter radiator. It looks like no, 120. It looks like. I'm sorry, not 120, 240. So at least more fans and more radiator options. But the funny thing, and let me put this panel out of the way real quick. Oop. Just smacked it into the Dell Optiplex. The funny thing about this is it's kind of like an old school design. So we've got this big old box up here, and that's a cable management and power supply ceiling or attic. I don't know. But so I thought it was kind of cool. I was like, you know what? I haven't built in a case that has something like that in a while, other than, you know, like a old Dell Optiplex. So there's not a basement mounted power supply. So that I know that's kind of super mainstream, but I think this thing might be kind of neat. I don't know. It's unique. So, and for the price that I got it for, this is a mid-tower case, so it can actually fit. You could put a heck of a lot of stuff in here. The only thing I don't like here is doesn't look like there's very good front ventilation, but it stands up pretty high on your table or wherever you would have it. So the main ventilation is coming in and from the side, and that should be probably, I mean, it's going to be way more than we need for this system, but that should be, I think, pretty good even for like a pretty high heat, high power system. So I'm pretty excited about this. So what do you guys think of this case? I mean, it's kind of odd to look at, and also this strip here too is LED. So, you know, more resale factor for us, and it's actually on the back side as well. So it's kind of this big LED panel on the front, but only illuminates on the sides there. So I'm pretty excited to see what this thing will look like all lit up and powered up. But let me know what you guys think. I think it was a pretty cool case. Rosewell's been around for a long time. I just haven't really bought their products in quite a while. It is a massive case, so I'm hoping by this large compartment up here, we don't have this dwarfed look to the motherboard, but it's probably going to look a little silly, but oh well, you know, I mean, where you could dress it up is more fans, I guess. So we're going to turn this on its side. And, oh, one thing. Uh-oh, I just realized I forgot to get my I/O shield. I want to make sure it came with one in this box. Uh-oh. No way. I don't have an I/O shield? Man. That's really going to be disappointing if I don't have an I/O shield. I think I do. I think because I did test these parts prior to the live stream just to make sure I didn't have duds. Always do that, guys. Especially if you're buying refurbished stuff. But I just want to take a look over here real quick just to make sure I didn't set it down somewhere. Give me 2 seconds. Ah, here it is. I think this is it. Is this it? Nope, that's not it. It's an I/O shield that I found, but not the right one. Well, guys, I'm not seeing it. My studio is a complete disaster right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if I have it sitting somewhere and I'm just not seeing it. Let me double check the box one more time. That's a bummer. Well, we're going to have to move on without it. This is a very common board, so I know if I don't have it for some reason, I should be able to probably just find one on eBay or something like that. No big deal. We are going to proceed on. Actually, I noticed that before I set the case down, the accessories box was tucked in here. If I can get it out. Here we go. Okay. That'll have our screws and stuff. Alright, let's get this spun back around and set it back down. Okay. Man, I'm bummed out about that IO shield. I'll have to look for it, and I'll let you guys know in a community post or something if I end up finding it, or even if I have to end up spending some money on a replacement. Yeah, there's definitely the nicer boards have IO shields installed on them, but it's pretty typical with a budget board where they are not there. So if you're getting a full featured large motherboard, you would more likely expect that than it be in a box. All right, lots of room for activities for sure in this box, or in this case. I have a feeling this power cable to this fan is a little in my way. There we go. All right, I'm gonna switch the cam here so you guys can see what the heck I'm doing. So, get some of this stuff out of the way and get this nice and close enough. Try to get a good angle for you guys. That's probably best. Okay, so we're gonna drop in the motherboard. I've got myself all turned around. This motherboard looks so tiny in here. This is funny. I didn't really realize how big this case was until I took it out of the box. I'm like, oh wow, this is a big case. Hopefully, we'll just be distracted by all the RGB goodness. All right, get the stuff out of the box here. So we got what came with it. Ooh, several zip ties. Looks like about 8 or 10 of them. That's always nice, and good ones. Ooh, what's this? That's neat. So a little microfiber cloth to wipe down your glass. I can't say I see that often, especially in a $60 case. Pretty sweet. Roswell was thinking of everything. And labeled, this is something you also don't see often, labeled little mini packages of screws. So we got PSU screws, and they gave us 5 actually. Check that out. 5, so a spare. Sweet. Alright, just looking for motherboard screws. Here we go. Motherboard screws and 3.5-inch hard drive screws. So it looks like using the same type of screw for both. Yeah. And then more hard drive screws for 2.5-inch. And it says CD-ROM. I don't see a place for a CD-ROM. Let me ask you guys this. How many of you guys have built PCs before that had CD-ROM or DVD or Blu-ray drives that was a major part of installing, or even spending money? Some of those Blu-ray drives, you could spend some money. But how many of you in the chat have been around building PCs long enough where that was a part that you were either installing 1 or 2 of those? I can tell you right now, that's something I remember and glad is gone. Alright. So I'm just, right now, just putting in the screws. Making sure I don't have any standoffs missing. There are, looks like I have to put in 1 standoff. 2 are missing, so actually I have to, 3. I have to pull the motherboard back out. Let's see if they gave us such great screws. Some of these good packs come with a motherboard standoff remover, which this one did not. Man, Roswell, you're doing so good. You gave me the nice little microfiber cloth, but you didn't give me a standoff remover. No big deal. Those are usually pretty simple to get off. If you have an iFixit kit like this, there's a tool that'll get them out. You can even probably just get a pair of pliers and just, zip it out. So I'm just looking for the one that fits. I won't need those very lower ones. So, give you guys an idea of what I'm doing. I'm going to grab these 3 lower standoffs. Get that zipped out one at a time. There's one out. I have a child asking me a question. Hang on one sec. What? Go back upstairs. Show. Okay. Yeah, she'll be back in a little bit. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Got a 5-year-old buzzing around the house asking me questions. Hopefully he's not getting into too much trouble. Alrighty. So I'm going to go back to first scene here. I'll be right back, guys. I just have to do something real quick. Had to turn the AC down a little bit. I was feeling pretty warm in here. Perks of living in Texas. It is hot. Very hot. We haven't had rain in like 6 weeks, or no, I think more like 8 to 10 weeks. It's been insanely hot. And this headset's nice, but I start to get hot wearing it. All right, so I need to put in 3 standoffs. Hopefully I can. Usually what I'll do here is I'll get the motherboard as a guide. Okay, I'm missing one here, here, and here, and try to remember exactly where I need to put them. Looked like I keep getting caught on that cable there from that fan. One here to start it by hand. I needed one here, I believe, and one here. All right. Zip these guys back in. Yeah, I was saying about Texas. It's been, I think the highest temperature we had at one point was 111 or 112 this summer. It's been extremely hot. Today it hit, I think, 102, which has been milder, which is sad to say. Get this zipped in, and with standoffs, just screw them down until they basically stop. No need to go ham on these things. All right. We should have all of our standoffs where we need them for the motherboard. Check, 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 check. Okay, we're good. All right, now I'll get my longer screwdriver and start getting them on and installed. Oh, what's up, Pinky Tech? He is in the chat. We were talking about you. I'm waiting for the comment of how long this is going to take me and will it post. Pinky Tech likes to give me crap about that. Because I rebuilt my, if you guys haven't seen it, you know, I'm not saying you have to go back and watch it because it was long. But I rebuilt my personal, mostly for editing purposes. It's a pretty hefty machine. I had been saving my pennies for quite a while. And it's got a 5950X, RTX 3080 Ti, 64 gigs of RAM. Like I said, mostly for content creation, though I am a gamer too, and I like to game on it, and it's a hell of a gamer. But it's balls out crazy PC. Just nuts. So there was a lot more involved than just getting the core components in. It has like, let's see, 4, 8, 10, 12, like 14 fans. All the new Lian Li, although not the newest Lian Li fans, because now they came out with a new version, which I want, but I don't want to spend $800 in fans or whatever the heck. But yeah, getting all that synced up. Fans and RGB take more time to do than anything else, I swear. Unless you're doing like custom loop or something. All right, I'll get my fix kit out of the way because I don't really need any more. All right, so we've got the motherboard. Golly, this thing's huge. To be fair, guys, I really didn't know it was going to be this big, but I think it'll look pretty sweet. Some extra fans there on the side. It kind of be almost like a Lian Li style case at that point. where it takes in all the intake from the side and the bottom. So that would be a good way to fill up this case, is doing some more fans if you weren't, or just have a bigger motherboard. Again, this wasn't the case I planned on going with. I was planning on going with the one that Pinky Tech did a video on, which is a good case and be more fitting size-wise for this type of build. But I was too intrigued by this case, so I wanted to play with it. All right, so motherboard installed. Now let's move on to getting some front panel connections set up, and then you know what we can do, so it's not an eyesore. Pull off these gold standoffs that we don't need. That would be for a larger motherboard. Looks like this thing supports full ATX size, not EATX, although it almost looks like it could do EATX, which is really big. Having trouble getting this one. Oh, come on. That one's zipped on there pretty tight. Okay, we'll forget that one for now. Yeah, I lost my bit. Get out of there. We'll worry about that later. We can always do fine cleanups after the stream. Okay, so for our front panel connections, or I guess in this case, top panel connections, because everything is up here. Those are all the buttons. Excuse me. Just gonna get this unbundled because it's all just bundled together here. Check on some chat while I undo this. All right. SD1 Ranger says, yeah, my AC can't keep up lately. Yeah, so funny story. Like I said, main reason why I haven't been as attentive with YouTube stuff lately is I've just been busy with family vacation, and there's been some birthdays and all that. So me and my wife finally got a chance to just go on a little trip ourselves. Kids stay with the grandparents. Thanks, grandparents, if you're watching. Always appreciated. But we come back to the house after, we just went out for a little weekend deal. And like I said, I live in Texas, so it was 85 degrees walking into my house. That's not what I set the AC at when we left. We usually set it to like 70, 76 or so. You want to still kind of keep it cool. And I was like, uh-oh. So, though I already knew I had a problem, actually. So, I had my AC looked at once before. So, I've got a air handler problem, and I have to at least replace that, which will be a cute, $4,000 to $5,000 to fix. And, yeah, so I had that issue. Had to get my AC refilled. Man, I need to be in the AC business because they charge a arm and a leg just to charge your system back up. So, I'm hoping to get through the hot months and have to take on the big repair later on down the line, which I'm not excited about. So I need to sell some of these PCs. Get some money. All right. I'm just found a decent hole, I guess, to tuck all these cables through for front panel. Here comes the USB 3. I think that's on the bottom. Yes, right there. So this will be a good spot to shove this one. And then HD audio. HD audio is something oops, sorry about that. Clanged my mic into the case. If you guys don't use front panel HD audio, don't plug this in. There's really no point. Though, I don't know who this system would be for, so I'm going to plug it in. But it's one thing I don't ever plug into my systems, like my personal systems, because I always use like headsets. I don't plug anything into the front panel, sometimes not even USB. So, I mean, use at your discretion. But if you're not going to, I cut myself a little. If you're not going to use it, then that's one less cable that you have to run, and you can just tuck it away in the back of your, back panel, and away you go. Most likely. Oh, Trent. Most likely all those gaming yeah. Maybe they didn't make me run overtime on that. Yeah. Gaming PCs get hot. They are good space heaters in the winter. Alright, trying to find the HD audio plug. I have found it. It's usually over here on the bottom left corner. And we'll say something audio to some extent. Alright, got that zipped in there. I'm just going to pull the excess cable back to the back of the case again. And making sure you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. A little hard to see this part, and it's honestly probably the least fun part to watch. So feel free to chat away, and I'll try to respond to you guys while I get these plugged in. But this should be 3 quick plugins. The hardest one being just the power button, power LED, and all that. And actually, I think I'm going to lay it down to be able to see that a little bit better. Might actually have to get out my phone here to get a little light on it. Alright. What's up, buddy? My son's walking in the room. Okay. Are you getting into stuff you're not supposed to get into? Alright, I gotta use my light. Sorry for that. So, power LED up on top, first one. Power LED is always the single tiny little ones. What's the one below it? That is hard drive. Okay, so plug that one in next. Hard drive, and then I think power switch is right next to the power LED. It is. Should go pretty simple. And we'll do that. Almost got it. All right. Okay. Front panel connected. Hopefully. All right, and I'll give you guys a shot of that. 1 second, guys. Need to step off camera for 2 seconds to help my son with something again. 1 sec. Take it upstairs. Take it upstairs. All right. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Like I said, I'm wrangling children at the same time of doing this. 5-year-old doesn't quite understand the concept of, hey, I'm busy. But I'm back. Sorry for that. Okay. So, yeah, I need a fancy, maybe John, that guy, I just see jumped in my chat. Maybe he can help me create a fancy be right back in 2 minutes counter. I know he's got all the fancy stream setup stuff that I've yet to put some effort into. I'm just going straight at it, building PCs and stuff. So I need to get on par with some of the fancier stream things. All right, so let's go here. Now what do we need? So just checking out any chats or anything you guys got going on. Discord. Oh yeah, guys, I wanted to make one plug. I totally forgot. It's probably partially due because my startup snafu, and I see some people talking about it. I just recently set up a Discord server where we can have more of this interaction, as a community outside of it being just on live streams and etc. Although I love interacting live with you guys, the Discord server is I'll put a link to it here in the chat at some moment. But if you go to my YouTube channel and just go to the About section and click on my Discord server, I also posted it recently on my community server or community tab. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, Twitter, all the socials, basically, even even TikTok, I've made posts there. So I've got a live server going. It's still in the building process. Looks like we got about 10 to 15 people or so there. I definitely want to build that up and make some content for you guys there, as well as eventually I think I want to do is like members only style content where you get more exclusive things if you pay a small $2 a month or whatever. I haven't quite gotten that far yet. I just want to build the channel, and we'll think of ideas, and you guys definitely let me know of ideas if you want like exclusive only, members only content, or just other channels to chat. It's going to be a building process, and I'm kind of new to building a Discord server, although I'm very familiar with Discord. I haven't really used it as a me providing you guys a service. So definitely check that out. I wanted to make a plug on that here now that I'm speaking with you guys, because I'm having a lot of fun doing all that, and I'm seeing more and more people join. So if you haven't got joined up, definitely join up. All right, so we've got pretty much everything in here other than power supply and video card. So let's keep moving along here. I'm going to grab the next part, and that's going to be our power supply. So I know these are not super highly recommended, highly rated power supplies. The EVGA whites are definitely on the lower tier model as far as, not the highest A tier power supply to buy when it comes to the tier list. But consider this: if you buy an A tier power supply for a $500 build, you've literally spent half your budget or more already. So there's really, again, that's what I was talking about with relevance, talking about, if you're spending $500 in total for a system, yeah, I guess you're taking a slight bit of a gamble if you buy a cheaper power supply, but all the rest of your parts are cheap too. So you kind of have to, live within reason here. So this is not something that I would say is a bad power supply by any stretch of imagination, though. I've used these time and time again. EVGA is probably my personal top tier recommended brand to go with as far as power supply. I've used them currently. I actually, in my personal rig, I removed and am reusing the power supply from my old rig. So I've got a 850 watt, even though it's a gold rated power supply. It's an A tier power supply. Again, I wasn't spending only $500 on my system, but I've had it running for 6 years or so now. So I have good things to say about these power supplies. Now, where do we get this power supply? This is actually what we found in the parts hunt video, if you guys hadn't seen it. And we got this off of EVGA. 500 watts. Check it out. It's a pretty good looking power supply too. If I can get it out of the box. It's coming out crooked. There we go. Pretty good looking power supply. No ketchup and mustard. If I were to tell you can buy a power supply, no ketchup and mustard cables, for 30 bucks, would you believe me? And no, it was not on their Super Saver Wednesday deals, the B-Stock deals. You can find them even cheaper then. This is brand new. So a lot of the B-Stock stuff is usually refurbished. So this is brand new. Again, like I said, it's not anything super fancy to look at. It's an 80 plus white, so it's got the minimum, efficiency standard, but that doesn't mean it's going to explode. I've sold many with these. I've never had a PC come back to me that has had a power supply explode and take the system out with it. Knock on wood. Hopefully never do. The worst thing that I've had one come back was a video I just recently put out where it wasn't posting because of a RAM issue, contact issue, or whatever the heck was going on there. So anyway, that's why I really like these power supplies. They aesthetically look pretty good. You're not really going to see it at all in this system because we're mounting it up high. But the thing is, we got nice black aesthetic cables. So let's get this guy in here. So being a top mounted power supply, this is interesting. I'll let you guys see that whole situation unfold. And obviously we don't want to mount it fan side up because we'd be sucking the top of the case. So this is actually going to help serve airflow in the case, because what it'll do is it'll draw air into the power supply. Now I do see one issue. This could be fun. It won't be too bad actually. I thought for a second maybe moving the cables around would be kind of tough. But what I was trying to say there is because the fan is mounting down, it actually will help promote some positive airflow through the case. Alright, now we need to find our 5 power supply screws that our case manufacturer granted us. We only need 4. Technically, I guess you can get away with 2. Alright. Oh, Jonathan Talks Hardware, $2 super chat, man. Hey, appreciate that very much, very much. I live stream my i5 4590 GTX 1050 build on it. Awesome, man. I'll have to go back and check that out, man. I love watching live stream builds. It's more fun. Like the interaction. But thank you so much for the super chat. Definitely helps the channel, man, because like I said, this is not a full-time job for me, so it helps me put money into these builds and provide you guys content. Every dollar I make is basically just redistributed into the channel. That's at least what I tell my wife. That way she knows I'm not taking any extra money out of the checking account. Alright, there's another screw. I noticed too, I accidentally flipped the switch on the power supply. It's already on the on mode. So we're good. We won't get hit with that when we try to go post. Because it never fails. And if you guys are just tuning in, you probably noticed I don't have my I/O shield on. So go ahead, feel free to rip me on that. I don't know where it is. I could have sworn the motherboard came with one, but maybe it didn't, and I just missed that. Luckily, this is a pretty common motherboard, so I don't have a doubt that I'll be able to find one. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to pull the motherboard off just to reinstall the I/O shield, but that'll be for my doing later. I'm just getting the system built, so that way you guys can see it running. Alright, so let's do some cable management here. I'm going to start with this big old hunkin' 24 pin, and it looks like, yep, if I shove it through this top spot here, goes through nicely. And look for CPU power, which actually there's a notch right behind the power supply, which I can drop that into, and that'll be nice. That's cables I don't even need there. Just looking for CPU. CPU. That is... what is that? VGA. So that'd be for our video card. And where is it? There we go. That's got to be it. Yep, CPU. Alright, try not to make a big tangly mess here. Pull that up and drop it down. Okay, I'm just kind of positioning things for now. And we do have a SATA cable, SATA power connection to make on our SATA power supply connection for the RGB controller. Because this one's got the built-in controller, a little light switch right here. So we'll get that connected. I think what I'll do, actually, you know what, I'll connect it on the very end and then stow the rest of the cable up top. Because there's a whole load of space, which is nice, for storing cables that we don't need. So a bunch of Molex, not much really uses Molex power anymore. SATA, definitely, for RGB controllers and hard drives. We don't have a a spinning drive or an SSD 2.5-inch drive, so all the rest of this can just go up here. Ideally, you'd probably want to, actually, the power supply, I think, did come with it. Zip ties or Velcro straps, actually, be better to, usually I try to make it nice. This isn't going to be about cable management any longer than it needs to be, but I took that behind everything that I just kind of ran. There we go, get in there, get under. That way it stays up there better and doesn't bulge out. Keep going, keep going. I don't know if that went any better. There you go. Slowly getting up there. Okay. Yeah, I'll clean that up later. It's always have slight little things that I clean up later, mainly because I don't want to make the live stream forever. And this is our VGA cable for the graphics card, which looks like, I'm actually wondering, I think I can shove this down below and just kind of run it up. Actually, you know what? That'd be pretty good, because that actually might hide some of the cable. We'll see. Again, that could be a minor little perfection level touch-up later. All right. Just checking back on the chat here. Yeah, Paranormal Gaming asking, did I misplace it? I think I did, the IO shield. Like I said, my studio right now is a complete disaster. I've got parts for I've got like 5 different PCs sitting on the ground with parts just everywhere. My wife loves it. And then, yeah, it's just a mess. All right, so this is our CPU power. Make sure you guys can kind of see that. We're just dragging this kind of straight across over the top of the motherboard. And plugging this guy in, 8-pin to the EPS power. It's kind of tight. This would definitely be very difficult if I had like a big cooler. So this extra space that's kind of taken up top for the power supply could be a bit of a pain if you have an aftermarket large cooler. Luckily for us, we don't. And then 24-pin, plugging this in next. Find your notch, line up the notch, and with your cable, and obviously the pins, 24 of them. I'm just fighting the cable right now. It's kind of unraveling still, so it's a bit stiff. I try to, if I can, push on the rear of the motherboard to support hammering down, especially this 24-pin. Looks like I got it. Just if you have the opportunity to. Some cases might have a big honking piece of metal where you can't do that, but do that if you can. So I'm thinking here is video card. I was thinking I might be able to come up. I might end up doing that. I don't know. I'm going to do this for now. All right, so power supply's got everything ran to it other than the graphics card. So I'm going to bring the graphics card in next as a talking point. All right, here she is. So, something I want to talk about with graphics cards, because things are getting crazy in the graphics card market. So, no, it's not a 3090 Ti, though you can buy one for like half its MSRP it was just a year ago, though. So, in the $500 parts build, I had targeted an RX 570, which this is an XFX. I always have a hard time saying that quickly. But what we found in the $600 or $500 parts hunt build was a Asus version. Again, like I mentioned earlier, guys, sometimes you're not quick on these deals, they go quick. But that I originally had priced at about $150 to buy. So having not gotten that card and coming back a few days later, cards were already dropping, and I made mention in that video that they were dropping before. So we ended up getting this XFX card for $130. So we saved 20 bucks, and fortunately we're able to basically get the same kind of card that I was shooting for. RX 570 is a bit of an older card, yes, but still a very capable card. And the reason we go for it, and if you saw the video, is strictly budget. There are cards that can, for not much more money, compete and or just blow these away. That would be going to the next generation of cards, though. You'd be looking at something like the next generation of Radeon cards, which would be your 5600s or so, and up. I'm sorry, not 50. Yeah, I'm thinking right. And then on the NVIDIA side, something probably like a 1650 to 1660 Super. Probably we would be just edging this card out, but more or less the 20 series cards would obviously just smoke this card. But the big thing is, like I said, budget. So this is one thing I want to show you guys, because because all the miners are dropping their inventory because mining is basically not profitable at all. It costs more money to actually run the systems. And that's where I got this card too. It was dirty as hell. I don't know if you guys saw my community post, but this thing was the most disgusting card I had ever picked up. And I got it looking pretty good. Use my new air duster, by the way. Got a video on that too, but it cleaned it up pretty good and just reapplied thermal paste, and this thing looks almost brand new. So it's perfect for the budget. Like I said, probably could now, if I was putting this together today, spend a little bit more on GPU and get something like a next generation up card for almost the same price, or still keep it under $500. Because like I mentioned, the prices are changing so quickly that I'm actually pricing this higher at $500, even though you could really put together the same thing for less. So it's a really good time to be a PC builder, PC enthusiast, because we're about to hit a very sweet spot in the market. All right, so let's get this guy on. Another good pin. Oh, I thought that was captive. Oh, now it's gone. Thought it was a captive screw, and it went flying. It's somewhere in my lost studio. Oh, there it is right there. Nice. Okay, so anyway, blabbering aside, let's get this video card in. But I just want to show you guys because the cards are the GPUs are getting awesome. And I posted something on my TikTok where EVGA this weekend had a sale where they were literally marking off like 50%. 3090 Ti for $1,000. Golly, I wish I would have waited. You guys don't want to know what I paid for my 3080 Ti. But oh well, you know, I wanted it then and I paid for it, I guess. So if you guys have waited, then you waited and you were smart. All right, so let's get this guy in. Just trying to get my angles right here where I can actually see. All lined up. Good clicking sound. That's what we're looking for. And by the way, guys, I'm praising this case. It's good. For $60, we get so much. The only thing that, you know, in our case is just kind of funny is got a micro ATX board and a case that can support full-size ATX and probably some water cooling components at this point, but it doesn't have any cheap things about it. So $60 you'd expect with 4 RGB fans. Where's there going to be a shortcut? And I really haven't found one other than, I guess, a kind of like older style of case. I don't know. This is kind of cool. I mean, I've seen some other cases that are bringing back the power supply at the top again. I mean, it was simple. It was easy to install. But the point I was going to make here is that even the PCIe covers, these are removable metal pieces that you don't have to break away, and they're pretty sturdy. So we know that it isn't just cheap, super flimsy metal, which you tend to find in cases near this price point. Now I just got to remember how to put this little panel thing back on. Got to remember the screws being exposed. I think that... Oh. Ah, like this. Okay. Come on now. I'm not lining up. Oh, I think I have to come in. There we go. Can only go one way with it. Clearly, I have not used this case before, so good big thumb screws too. Makes it easy. All right, we got everything. Let's get power on our GPU. I think what I'll do is I'll do the whole trick where plug one in and bend the other one back and zip tie it under. So line up our notches. Just get the cables all set. There we go. This, like I said, I'm probably just put a little zip tie on. In fact, they gave one to us, so let's do it. It's a little trick here is I just take, when you got these extra cable connections, the daisy chainers, I just pin it back with one of the provided zip ties. Make good use of it. And then we can pull the cable back a little. That won't look half bad. Get my snips to snip that little excess off. Well, I don't know where I put them. I'm misplacing everything tonight. Again, like I said, my studio is a bit of a mess. I won't have any problem. Okay, so I also realized I need to grab a monitor real quick so we can have proof that this sucker posts. So I'm going to get power at least plugged in. And give me another minute and I'll be right back with the monitor, guys. Okay. Alrighty. Got a monitor from my kid's PC. So if it's a little gunky, it's not my fault. Built her little rig a while back. Could use some updates. Oop, need power to reach here. She's got just a APU. It's a pretty neat little system. Hold on, I'm just rearranging plugs underneath. Trying to get to where I can plug this in. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, got power. I just need an HDMI cable. Got one over here somewhere. I swear I'm usually more prepared. There we go. Yep. Luckily the headset's wireless, so you can at least hear me grunting and talking at the same time. Okie doke. So just getting HDMI plugged in. Check out the chat real quick. Pink Tech says, did you see the video cards article that NVIDIA is working with partners now to lower prices on the 30,000 series? Is that what's going on? Yeah, because it's like all of a sudden it's like massive price drops. And I've heard some things from like other tech YouTubers saying like a lot of it also is to do with the new series of cards that are coming out. But the 3000 series were definitely just priced on an insane level. And NVIDIA was taking, I think NVIDIA and even AMD were taking advantage of the market situation, knowing that those cards were just going straight to miners basically, and or they could sell them at extreme marked up prices. So glad to see things normalize, but I mean, who's to say it won't happen again? But I don't know. All right, guys. Moment of truth. I think I got power work. Is this thing turned on? The power button. Yep, it's on. So there we go. I need to get one of those cheap portable monitors like Greg Salazar has. That way I can just set it up and there we go. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, got lights. Heck yeah. That looks pretty cool. All right, looking for post. Looking for post. Trying to look at my camera at the same time to see it. It's blowing some air out. Feels nice. Been getting hot and sweaty. Hey, we have a post. Okay, this actually is probably going to boot straight into Windows because I have a OS. I think I have an OS installed. You know what? I don't quite remember. We'll see. But we got a post. Yeah, this looks pretty sweet. So I'm going to kind of move the monitor off a little bit and check out some of these LEDs going on. Cool. All right, so where's the LED button? Make sure I don't like reset it. Actually, this didn't have a reset switch, so it should be. Oh, Yeah? That plugged in? Okay. Let's see. I don't know if this button's going to do anything. Okay, yeah, it does something to the LEDs. So it's got a built-in LED controller. Looks like all kinds of different modes. And yeah, we're booting, or I gotta, yeah, we booted into Windows. So this, like I mentioned, I pulled the SSD, sorry, the squeaky monitor. I pulled the SSD off of the $400 build because we're using the same exact part, and you know, being tight on budget and not actually even selling that build, I had to kind of reuse some of the existing parts that I had to give a stream for you guys. But it would have been the same exact parts anyway I would have bought. So, you know, why spend more money, especially if I'm not selling? Maybe this one will sell because it looks all flashy crazy. But yeah, I mean, pretty sweet. It's got a LED strip going down the side, and it's on the back side too. There, so you'll see that on the back side, on both sides of it. Looks pretty sweet. And then the 4 provided fans. These suckers push a good amount of air. I can feel it. So this should run plenty cool for this system. There's no doubt this will have plenty of... And the thing I like here too is these fans are feeding that GPU straight raw air. That's pretty cool. And let's see, actually, is there a easy to remove dust filter? Let's see, I didn't check on that. I can feel it, I just don't know where to pull it off. Looks like it may not be super easy to get to. Oh, no, yep. Aha! So easy to remove dust filter. So this is the type of fine mesh material that you can just like run underwater, let it dry out and put it back. Or if you want to YOLO it and have maximum airflow and just remove the filter altogether. May not be a bad idea for, you know, since you're pulling most of your air in from underneath, but, you know, obviously promotes more dust. Yeah, but anyway, we got it, guys. So $500 build. Actually, I kind of like it with the white LEDs like that. Looks pretty sweet. So what do you guys think? What do you think? Like I mentioned, $500. We are now fully into Windows here. It looks like, oh, my BattleNet is coming up, so we could play some games. If I had it all set up too, I would with you guys, but I don't have drivers or anything like that. I guess I could have thought ahead. Maybe I'll do that next time. And with a simple build like this, it only takes us, you know, about an hour or so with chatting. You know, Pinky Tech, don't roast me, because I'm also chatting and interacting. I'm not just building. He likes to build them real quick and then rub it in my face that I'm slow. Anyway, so, oh, Pinky Tech with a $5 donation, man. Hey, man, I really appreciate that. As you know, being a content creator yourself, the extra little kickback of money in these live streams, and or, you know, actually now I think you guys, if you haven't noticed, and not trying to plug ways that you can give me more money and by any stretch of imagination, but didn't know if you're familiar with it, but you can give channel thanks when you go watch their videos, and there's like a button next to the like button or whatever. You can give them a thanks as a way to tip them for their efforts. But again, I'm not asking for it, guys. I just appreciate it, because all the money that I earn monetized through the channel just goes straight back into the channel to try to do upgrades to the systems, the setup, everything, give you guys a better experience. But just want to check through some comments real quick since I hadn't looked at it for just a moment. Paranormal Gaming asks, what kind of monitor is this? I don't know, man. This is something that I just ripped straight off my daughter's system. I feel like I'm coming in kind of fuzzy. I think my focus is funky. I'm actually going to get the monitor out of the way completely. But it's just something I bought at Walmart for my daughter's PC. Her PC is just running on an old APU, 2200G. She just plays like Roblox and stuff on it. So, I mean, obviously not a massive requirement to have anything of high intensity graphical performance on that. I might upgrade her to like a better APU here someday, whatever. But it's just to make sure that we got video, which we do, full post, all that. No sparks coming from the motherboard. Yeah, no sparks. Yeah, I'm glad. So like I mentioned, the power supply, I'd say, is a pretty reliable power supply. It's not going to explode your system. I feel pretty confident using them. I have many times. Any other things here? I think that's about it, guys. Pinky Tech is happy that I finished before his bedtime. Hey, man, I'm happy to provide you some content, some going to sleep content. So Thanks for tuning in, guys. And I guess at this point, guys, there really isn't much else to say. It looks like I'm towards the bottom of the chat. Like I said, I try to keep up with as much as I can, but it's on a screen off to my side while I'm building. That's why the super chats, as I mentioned, helps me see you when you say something. But anyway, guys, what do you think of the build? I think it looks pretty sweet. I'll have just a quick other couple things. I'll have a full summary of this build as a next up and coming video, probably within a week, where I'm going to benchmark it. We're going to see what it can do. Throw all my typical game benchmarks at it. If you guys have any suggestions for a benchmark that you want to see me run, I've typically been kind of running the same things just so I can have good comparison between systems. But if you guys have anything that you want to see me do, feel free to, holler at that in the comments of this video or the next up and coming video. And we'll have a full overview of this system. Again, join my Discord. I'll have it's right now linked in my about section on my YouTube channel. You can definitely go to the community tab where I've recently just made an announcement of that. Get joined there so you can know exactly when I'm dropping videos, as well as other content creators, because I've got Pinky Tech and the Net Guy, and I think I got a few you guys others that are also content creators. Jonathan Talks. So I'm going to add you as a friend that gives notifications to your video drops. So it's a good way to also kind of get some exposure through my channel. It's a community building thing. That's what I want to be able to provide to you guys. All right. So I think that's going to call it for tonight, guys. I appreciate you joining in and hanging out with me as we built this $500, now really only about anywhere between $450 build. And stay tuned for more up and coming content. Like I said, I'll be covering this one soon. Thanks for tuning into this one. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.